Good day everyone, my name is Wolfgang and this is part 2 of Beyond Rock in a Hard Place. Part 2, the SISIUTL, an animal which I also call the glassworm, snake or serpent, rockworm, snake or serpent, and the horned serpent or snake, just briefly as I discussed in the previous video. Anyway, this is a redo of the first video. There are some audio issues, so I'm going to throw in some video I didn't have in the last one, and some new notes or whatever. Anyway, in brief, I call this particular animal or creature the SISIUTL. Normally I call it the SISIUTL or sometimes the QuackaUtl. I'm not too sure on which to choose, because the features described in the old First Nations legends of both SISIUTL and QuackaUtl describe a very similar creature to what we're seeing here, only they were described as much larger in the past. So please take the time to like, subscribe, or even donate at the PayPal address provided here. It might be long expired, I'm not too sure, but anyway, give it a whirl. I've searched far and wide on the net for some general acknowledgement of this particular species that I'll be focusing on here, but as unlikely as this may sound, I firmly believe this to be a discovery. This species, on the other hand, while maybe widely unacknowledged, I believe greatly outnumbers any known species. I'd put money on that. So anyway, I need to mention, the previous video, part 1 of the SISIUTL that was previously posted, seemed to have some audio issues as usual. I also missed some decent video clips of the SISIUTL. All the video captured here is from using a digital metallurgy microscope. None of the video is altered in any way, though the pictures that I will provide at the end of the after all the video, some of them might be zoomed in, the colors might be altered a little bit just to highlight certain features. It's good to get a close look at this guy. Might be worthwhile to really look at the close-ups provided near the end. So concerning the video, when you observe movement, it is important to know that I'm just placing my finger in close to the animal. That is usually what prompts these characteristic serpent-like movements. So watch closely the locomotion and behavior of the animal, and notice again the repeated characteristics of this species appearing in many different colors, many different clips. And in a brief description, this animal is, you'll notice, snake or serpent-like, having that characteristic elongate body. The head is often discernible, sometimes not. It's normally a horse or dog shaped head that is usually with a long snout like that of a horse or a dog, commonly seen, you'll see in these videos. Also, one main feature that is normally seen with these SISIUTL is a horn above the head, sometimes even with a small translucent or transparent rock situated atop the head. The elongate body of the SISIUTL is typically seen to have equidistant barbs or sections. This elongate body is sometimes appearing helical or twisted, much like the legend of the SISIUTL. Much to my surprise, an appendage is often seen roughly 6 sections down its elongate body from the head. And interestingly enough, this correlates with the legend of the SISIUTL, as the Ho-Chunk people in modern-day Minnesota once described, or described today, the legendary creature, again described to be much larger in the past, could not be killed by a bow and arrow striking it in the head, but rather the creature could be killed should the arrow strike its heart. Described as being visible on the outside of its elongate body, coincidentally 6 sections down from the head. This is a big reason why I use the name SISIUTL, and as crazy as it may sound, I do gives some weight to the legend, and do believe that they were much larger in the past. I recently noticed the creature to open its eyes, also once stimulated by the introduction of a finger in close to it. This, of course, is debatable, as the magnification of the scope doesn't really allow it to display this definitively, even zoomed in, but I've always had the impression that the SISIUTL is a very long-living, low-metabolizing, generally dormant creature, and as mentioned and demonstrated in the previous video, the creature does not exhibit any movements if an instrument, such as a pen, is brought in close to it. Rather, the creature always seems to react to the introduction of a finger, or what I assume to just be a source of nutrition. You will notice in this video some clips displaying the creature's resting atop my finger after handling rocks for a short time. As you should know, your fingers might become covered in these little creatures once having a look at your fingers under the microscope, and I assume that on a daily basis we're all actually carrying quite a few of these creatures at any given time, with or without the handling of rocks. And I might add, they do appear in large numbers on glass, factory glass, and even glacier type rock. They do appear on metallic objects as well, as I've noticed. I have a clip here of these creatures resting on an American coin, so I will try to put that clip right exactly here as I'm mentioning it. So yeah, the fact that these creatures are basically littered all over everything, metallic, glass-like, or rock-like. They exist on everything every rock I've viewed under the microscope. They've consistently exhibited movements, and surely they are living. How easily transferred to the fingers I noticed them to be prompted me to avoid too much skin contact with the rocks for some weeks, and at least it didn't go without repeated washing of the hands. And that's one important subject of these. I safely assume that these creatures are carnivorous, but I'm not sure how hazardous it might be to be littered in these small creatures, and what the health implications would be to any average person. In any case, I would add that these creatures could be linked to Morgellons disease, fibers that you typically see with those inflicted with Morgellons. A lot of neat things to take into account about this animal. Like I said, very low metabolizing is what I assume. I describe these creatures to be generally dormant and long-living. I believe they very seldom eat. I found these particular creatures living inside of the core of a 200-pound rock taken from the bottom of a lake, once sawed in half. What they could have been eating in there in the middle of this giant rock, or not eating for how long, is just astonishing. You'd have to assume the lack of nutrition, lack of oxygen, sunlight, etc., etc., and exposed from the middle of a giant boulder, and then there they are exhibiting those characteristic movements. So not only have I noticed the movement in these creatures while having introduced the finger in close, but I've also noticed this similar behavior when a fruit fly was introduced in close to a cluster in one instance. And then, having forgotten for about a day's worth of time that I'd positioned this fruit fly in close to the cluster of these creatures, remembered the following day, turned the microscope back on, and to my amazement, this cluster of SISIUTL, noticeably more abundant looking than I'd remembered the day before, or say more flourished. Several of a cluster, 20 or so, varying colors, quite clearly had perforated right through the body of this fruit fly and out the other side. Again, looking more abundant and prevalent than I'd remembered from a day earlier. So obviously they had quickly flourished after maybe a long-awaited source of nourishment. I don't know. Fuck. Anyway, this I've seen before with this creature. As you might notice in the video, along with the elongate body, in some instances it would appear to have prey present or even decorated along its elongate body. Just like the perforation of this fruit fly, I've seen what looks like past prey decorated along the stalk of this animal, perforated right through at some point in the past, I would assume. I've looked into the self-decoration of prey, which has been acknowledged to exist in some species of animals today, such as the decorator crab and octopus, known for its self-decoration camouflage used for various reasons. Again, I can't confirm for sure without a higher magnification of scope, but it certainly appears as though they self-decorate with past prey. Debatable is the existence of a tongue on the SISIUTL. Not totally definitive though, too small to say for certain, but what appears sometimes to be a rapidly protruding tongue. Wouldn't surprise me, as a serpent-related creature. The SISIUTL certainly is. Do we have particular animal species known today with individuals covering the entire spectrum of colors? Well, most captured here have been observed as single-colored. I've seen them to be green, blue, black, red, clear, white, neon pink, purple, indigo, almost covering the entire spectrum, but rarely yellow or orange. I have seen orange more often than I have seen yellow. I'll include pictures to those that seem to be brown. Now the brown ones are important, usually when they appear larger and do not exhibit movement, though they show much more detail. I firmly believe them to be the same species, except appearing dead or extremely slow, metabolizing, inactive. I'm not sure. Though these larger brown specimens, which you'll see in the slides after the video, are usually seen to have other smaller living, or at least more active ones, appendaged or grown out from the larger brown example. Have a look at the pictures after the video. Much greater detail is seen in things such as the dressing above the head of the SISIUTL, which appears to have hair or even crab claw looking strands protruding from the head, sometimes horns or antler looking headdress, as described also in the original people's legends of Greater America. So you see its large menacing eyes, snout. These brownish specimens appear more woody in constitution, while the smaller SISIUTL showing movement often appear glassy or silicate based. They often appear to have a transparency to them, and often observed to consist of small rock particulate, either just on the head or distributed along its length. I have observed them to carry a small particle of rock on the head. Have a look yourselves, you might notice in this video. Many legends describe a serpent-type creature as having this gem or crystal above its head, said to be found on cobras. An example would be the Nagamani. They're called snake pearls or whatever. I guess modern science refutes the existence of such a gemstone on snakes, but it's been mentioned, and so funny little correlation here, as you might notice. So you can observe this creature on any given rock. I can almost guarantee that. This is definitely not limited to Sudbury, Ontario region rock, but safe to say the greater planet Earth. Have a look at any rock for yourselves under a metallurgy scope, and you can even see with the naked eye sometimes a strand large enough to see. If you place a rock against a light or the sun, you might see with the naked eye a strand. Those strands, though, the ones that are visible with the naked eye, are generally seen to be the inactive, dead, brown examples, as I talked about, the ones displaying no movement, but seem to have greater detail. Now, in brief, concerning the range of movement that I have observed this animal to exhibit, you'll notice here sometimes a shaking or a jittering, aside from the characteristic coiling, folding, bending, and elongating seen in many clips here. As mentioned, what could possibly be a rapidly protruding tongue once stimulated to exhibit these movements. Interestingly too, but rarely observed, you'll see at least one clip here that I know I have in this series of clips, one displaying a rapid jump or displacement. Debatable though, because this could be due to disturbance in the air around it, but I've seen it more than a few times. I can suggest confidently though that this species is one of the most, if not the most abundant species of animal on Earth, and it is most certainly alive. The examples captured here often appear to be appended to the rock and sometimes not, but they sure like rock. Also, as mentioned, the animal being seen to exist in numbers appended to one another, having several individuals attached, even several heads on one length. You might possibly observe for yourselves here, this is a thing called polycephaly, a Greek word meaning many heads, existing in some known species today, like Siamese twins, and I would firmly believe the SISIUTL would be categorized as a polycephalous species. There are also many occurrences of multi-headed animals in mythology, such as the double-headed eagle, although maybe in some ways the SISIUTL could also be characterized as having something like Craniopagus parasiticus, meaning the heads themselves are conjoined, to have been documented rarely in humans. This has been documented in many species of animals, including snakes, and of course throughout mythology. The Albanian legend of the Kul-Shedra serpent, the Romanian legend of the Balor, and the dragon-like creature in mythology. Starting to hate the word mythology as it's assumed a myth, right? But look into the Japanese Yama no Orochi, again an 8-headed serpent. Additionally known to exist today, as far as known animals are concerned, siphonophores. They're complex species of animals, or a group of animals composed of smaller individual organisms. They're also known as colonial organisms. The SISIUTL you see here, who knows, could be categorized as such, but I can probably more confidently say that the SISIUTL should be categorized as a polycephalous species, many heads, not necessarily composed as from smaller individual organisms. Now, have a look at some of the supplementary digital images taken with the microscope here. Some examples as mentioned of the larger, of what I believe to be the same species, larger, perhaps dead, the brown examples, perhaps living though largely inactive, and as mentioned before, more detailed, consisting of smaller individual living active SISIUTL, very often seen appended to them. In all, I hope that you have at least acknowledged these characteristic movements when provoked by a finger again and again in every video clip. Could there be another explanation for those movements? Perhaps, though probably unlikely, as few peers of mine, having observed, have suggested. Could be static electrical attraction to these whatever non-living filings or strands on every rock you view under the scope. On top of this, I hope what is acknowledgeable is the characteristic physical features across most examples of SISIUTL displayed here. The horse-like snout, the horn-like feature on the head, the equidistant sections on the elongate body, somewhere typically around the 6th section of the elongate body, an appendage of sorts described to be, again, in the original peoples of America's legends, describing it to be a heart 6 sections down from the head, you'll see these characteristics repeated again and again throughout the videos. Perhaps not quite discernible to viewers, its helical or twisted shape, as well as often seen an iconic crystal above the head. And also worth mentioning, I've noticed on several occasions, perhaps you have as well, a web present in around the SISIUTL. So they could utilize or create some kind of web, like a spider would, but that's debatable. Anyway, enjoy the photos. Please like, subscribe, share, and whatnot.
you